Most business owners have encountered that point in growth of realizing that they need a better tool to manage their company, often called an enterprise resource planning or ERP system. They go through a tedious selection process and buy a new system because they are sure, or they were promised, that it would make their business better, only to be sorely disappointed with the results. Then they are left wondering, did I pick the wrong software? Or are we just not using it correctly? On today's episode, we are joined by Joel Schneider, President of Liberty Technology Advisors, to talk about getting the most out of your enterprise resource planning or any other software solution. Welcome to Right in the Middle Market, a podcast about pragmatic perspectives on running, growing, and selling your business. We talk about the challenges, decisions, and most importantly, the actions business owners can take to create long-term value in their companies. Welcome to Right in the Middle Market. This is Stephanie Chambliss-Gaffin, and on today's episode, my co-host Mark Gaffin sits down to talk with Joel Schneider about ERP systems, why they matter for your business, and how to get the most out of this fantastic tool. Not sure what an ERP system is? Well, stay tuned. Before I turn it over to the two of them, I wanted to give you a little background on Joel. Joel started out as a software developer, and as he grew in his career, spent enough years working in and with organizations to understand that technology alone is never the total answer. In 1995, he founded Liberty Technology Advisors with the goal of helping manufacturers improve their business operations through better use of technology. Since then, LTA has grown into a respected independent advisory firm, helping hundreds of businesses succeed not only through technology selection, but the processes and change necessary to truly drive impact.
Welcome, Joel. I would love to start off just kind of going back a little bit and thinking about how you started Liberty Technology Advisors. What was the genesis of that idea? How did you come along the journey? You've been around for a while.
Well, thank you for asking me that question. That's a great way to start this program today. Liberty Technology Advisors was founded in 1995 on a very simple premise, and that was there was an unmet need in the marketplace for mid-market companies to plan, evaluate, select, and successfully implement software solutions to meet their business needs. Back in 1995, there was this brand new class of software called ERP, Enterprise Requirements Planning Software. It was brand new on the market, and many companies were inundated with marketing information, marketing literature, telling all these companies how great it is. Most of the software was immature at the time, so they needed an independent advisor who understood the marketplace, the software, the technology, and business in general to help them go through the process to help them evaluate and select that software. Once again, back in the 90s, the 1990s, the previous century, there was software called MRP, Material Requirements Planning Software, which was very simple software that helped companies identify what their inventory and supply chain needs were. That grew to larger class of software called MRP2, which added some accounting capabilities, some manufacturing capabilities, customer service capabilities, and that grew to this final class of software called Enterprise Requirements Planning Software. Quite complex. So we started the company on the premise that companies needed advice, counsel, and guidance so they make the right decisions and they're not sold software that they don't need, that they don't want, that won't meet their needs, that will never be implemented. So that was the genesis of the company.
So when I think about the software, what is, talk about the how in a little bit, but what's the end goal of an ERP system? Done well, designed well, what is the ultimate goal? And then when they work our way backward to, is it worth the investment?
It's an interesting question, and I hear this all the time. What's the goal of the ERP system? What's the goal of an ERP software system, or for that matter, any software system? I'd like to turn that around and say the goal isn't to have a great ERP software system. It's to have a tool that's going to help your business grow, manage its resources, and get the information they need to make better business decisions. It's not the software for the software's sake. It's what is the right tool to help me scale and grow successfully. So it's not the software for the software's sake. So a successful implementation is, do I have all the right components, the right software, the right data, and most importantly, did I re-engineer my business processes to take advantage of the software and the functionality and the resources that are in these software products so you can run your business better? That's what the software is all about. Can I run my business better than the way I did it before? So it's not the software that's going to make a difference. It's how you implement.
So I think that's a great point. Let me take a step back and talk about what we think about the middle market. We cover fairly broad middle market. We'll work with companies that may have revenues below $10 million. I think the ACG, the Association of Corporate Growth, uses, for example, $10 million to $1 billion in revenue as their middle market, fairly large. So question for you, smaller companies than that have complexity. They're trying to get somewhere. They may be for hyper fast growth. They may be growing through a geography expansion. When is there an appropriate time for when people start to think about Excel, QuickBooks, not to beat on QuickBooks, but is there a time where I really should start to think about the costs of complexity, the costs of managing data so that I can get information insights? When do I start to think about that?
Well, first, let's start with the basic understanding that today, the number one and most popular ERP product is Excel. It's true. Most companies use Excel to manage their business. What happens is, as a company will start to grow, Excel is too much for them. In order to grow, they have to add more people to manage all those Excel worksheets and workbooks. Then they go to QuickBooks. And QuickBooks, which is a phenomenal product, by the way, can't scale as the company grows and has more complex needs and requirements, especially when it comes to information and getting data to make better decisions. So a $5 or $10 million company may run well on QuickBooks, but it's their needs and requirements. A $5 million company may have the same requirements of a $50 million company. So you just have to find the appropriate software and the appropriate system for a $5 million company that you do for a $50 million company or a $500 million company. Once again, there's no right answer. That's why there's hundreds of software products on the market. That's why you have to find the product that is the best fit for you.
Yeah, one of the things I have a love-hate relationship with Excel. I do a lot of work in it. We do a lot of modeling. We do a lot of M&A stuff. And so one of the things I have to do, and you work with hundreds of clients, you go out there and you see someone had put together what started out was a little spreadsheet to bridge a gap in a piece of reporting. Then that grew and it grew. And now it's 15 tabs. They might be color-coded, but you know what's in there? Invariably, someone hard-coded something somewhere along, and all you've got is a bunch of stuff that's carried through years. And we'll spend a bit of time auditing, right? You use some of the auditing features in Excel to go back and find that. You're like, oh my God, we've been carrying that error for years now.
That's correct. We have a client up in Milwaukee that was about a $12 million company. The finance department was managed on Excel, and the finance person there developed Excel models and forecasts and tools over years. And it got so complex, one wrong keystroke, one wrong error in that formula messed everything up. That's the downside of Excel, is lack of auditing and audit trails. An ERP system, the proper ERP system, will have built-in audit trails, and you don't have to worry about those errors. So finding the right solution was the best thing for them. They were able to grow and not spend days looking at Excel spreadsheets. The Excel just analyzed some of the other information that the ERP was unable to do that data mining and data analysis to make those better decisions. So Excel, although a great tool, and I love Excel, everyone loves Excel. It's not an ERP system because it's not transaction-oriented. There's no audit trails, and it doesn't integrate automatically with other systems such as order entry, purchasing, receiving, shipping, invoicing, billing, et cetera, et cetera. That's the missing link of Excel. It's not a transaction system.
Well, and I think one of the big goals for me, and this is where the big data analytics got really, really popular. There's 55,000 books out there in data analytics, but if you don't have good data, if it's not valid data, and if it's not timely data, then your analysis, therefore, or thereon forward is somewhat flawed.
Well, think about the whole original concept of ERP system. It's you enter information at the source, and then at the back end, you get that data that you're looking for. If I could get data at the source of multiple entry points, whether it's a customer order, purchase order, a receipt of that purchase order, what I'm consuming on the manufacturing floor, invoicing, paying bills, receiving cash, I could get that information, and now I could do that analysis on that information. I could turn all that data, and you're right, there's tons of data out there. How do I turn that data into real information? And how do I turn that information into insight and knowledge so you can make a better business decision? An ERP is not going to make that decision for you. You need to have that information to make a better business decision. And ERP solutions allow you to have that capability.
And I think that's one of the areas, I think when I said the goal of the ERP system right here, it's not the software, but it's the C-suite, it's the CFO, it's the CEO, it's the CMO. All of those people have information. We can slice it differently. Invariably what happens, someone says, I built a spreadsheet to answer the question you asked. And then if you want to take a slightly different bend at it, because they didn't anticipate that, either they have to build another spreadsheet or we just kind of wing it.
This is the really cool stuff about ERP systems in the 2000s, 2010s, and now the 2020s compared to the late 1990s. You had the information in an ERP system. Getting it out was very difficult. The only way to get it out was to download it to Excel, and then you did all your analysis at that point. Today in the 2020s, there are tools where you could just look at a dashboard, look at a screen, and have that executive on his phone, his iPad, any type of mobile device, his computer in his office, and say, what are my sales today? You know what? That's really good. What are my sales by region? Oh, that's even better. What's my sales by region by product? Oh, how's salesman Bob doing in that region? You get that literally at a click of a mouse. And that's the power. But you have to have the right procedures in place to enter the data and have good quality data in the first place. Otherwise, the ERP system is not going to provide that value that you're looking for. That's why the setup of these systems are so important. And that's why so many people are concerned about ERP to begin with. They hear the bad stories. It took 9 months, took 12 months, took 24 months to get these systems in place. It shouldn't take that long, by the way. It should take 6 to 9, maybe 12 months at most. But it's all about data and business processes. The software is really good, assuming you go through the selection process and find great software that meets your specific needs. But then you have to re-engineer your business processes so the software works for you. That's a really key point. I'm glad you brought that up.
QuickBooks does what QuickBooks does well, right? It's a financial accounting system. Any good stories about people stretching that too far?
I'm not sure we have enough hours in the day to talk about all those stories. Just a couple quick ones. We happen to have a client in Maryland right now that is owned by a private equity group, but a small firm. I mean, they started out with one location, does about $10 million in revenue, running on QuickBooks. Everything was fine. Then they bought another location, and they had their own version of QuickBooks. But they bought 17 different businesses in 18 months. There wasn't enough time to consolidate that. So right now they have 17 versions of QuickBooks running, 17 different chart of accounts, 17 different business processes. And getting that information, closing the books, and understanding what you have, and then scalability and growth is now next to impossible. So QuickBooks is a great tool, but it's not meant to be all things for all people. So you have to look at, how do I achieve success, just like you said before, and put a platform product in place to help that company scale. The key to scale is there a product, an ERP product, that can help me grow without a commensurate number of people adding to your staff? I want to grow my revenues. I want to grow my locations. I want to grow my products, grow my services without adding people. That's when you could achieve scale. So you have to combine your technology with your processes so you have scalability and automation. Once you do that, now you have a business that is ready to really explode.
Yeah, we've just launched a kind of a podcast story arc on strategic planning, and very recently did one on mission and the vision and the mission statement, right? That's kind of that long-term horizon. The mission statement almost certainly is going to adapt over time as market conditions, right? We're talking about something that's decades old, but we talk on the strategy part of things, right? You have your strategy that needs to be more agile these days. Irrespective of COVID, you're getting to a point where we're going to explore, then exploit this area, explore. And if you don't have that data, if you don't have the ability to test, say, are we getting any traction in that market? If we are, great, let's get some resources to it, because people tend to take that peanut butter approach to capital investment. And here you can say, we're really getting traction in that area. This one was a nice try, but we just didn't get the results we wanted.
Data is what it's all about. You can't make great decisions without data. So you have to take a look at, how do I get the data? Where's the source of the data? And then analyze that data to make great decisions. There's not a company out there that doesn't say, let me see the data. If you can't get the data, that's an issue, and that's where you need to step back and say, why don't I have that data? That's where systems and processes come together.
That's a terrific point. I'm going to leave it right there. We will rejoin after a word from our sponsor.
Right in the Middle Market is brought to you by SLS Capital Advisors. SLS Capital Advisors is a boutique financial advisory firm working directly with middle market leadership to tackle critical growth opportunities, including exits, mergers and acquisitions, and access to capital. The principals of SLS Capital Advisors bring deep industry, financial, and consulting experience to firms seeking tailored strategic opportunities, including capital for major growth initiatives and alternatives for those evaluating corporate transitions and exits. SLS Capital Advisors services include managing effective exits and sales processes involving sophisticated buyers, such as strategic purchasers, financial buyers, and operator-to-operator transactions, and raising capital to fund our clients' growth, including debt and equity elements. They also assist companies in capturing growth opportunities through focused and effective organic growth and M&A programs, and unlocking profit potential through business portfolio rationalization and divestiture. SLS Capital Advisors, focused on delivering consultative executions for clients seeking strategic growth and capital. Find us at slscapitaladvisors.com to learn more about how we can help you.
Welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation with Joel and talking about ERP. And I think if there's a takeaway I have so far is that there's a process here, right? There is an implementation process. I think one of the things I've seen from years of working with companies as they grow, there's just inherently, if you're sitting in your garage making fishing lures, it's pretty easy to see everything in the garage. If you're going to go through, we call them kind of S curves of growth, you're going to meet periods of complexity that you have got to overcome. This is why I think there's, hundreds of thousands of companies at below 5 million in sales. You can, by brute force, get to a certain level, but if you want to grow, if you want to be able to maintain, where am I profitable? Where am I not profitable? I mean, if I've got SKUs will grow, organically, exponentially, but you're not making money in 80% of them. So how does the ERP system help you grow in that way?
Well, you brought up a great point. You could have a $5 million company that has X number of SKUs. Adding more SKUs may not be the answer. You need to know what SKUs are making money, what's my profit margin in each one, what's the sell-through on each one, what customers are actually paying for these. If you don't have that data, you're going to start adding more SKUs and you're going to add more complexity. You're going to have to buy more products, add to your manufacturing plant, and you're not going to get a successful product or products to the marketplace. So it's all about understanding your business. If you don't understand some of the core requirements, if you don't understand your costs, then how do you sell a product? If you don't understand your overhead, your fixed cost, everything that an ERP system can do for you, if it's set up properly, is how you can actually help a company grow. The whole idea behind these ERP systems is to get one big bucket of information that you can analyze and make better decisions upon. But the best way to do it is to sit back and have a plan. If you just go into this, say, let me just go put in an ERP system, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So the first thing you have to do is put together a realistic project plan and a detailed project plan, both, and they're different, and understand the resources, the time, the dollars, and the commitment it's going to take to make that happen.
When I think of companies we talk to on that want to sell, and we as a consulting firm, the consulting side of the house does a lot of work with people. They're like, I want to sell in the next 2 years. And so we'll go out there, maybe too late, or there's not a return on investment for them to do an ERP system at the time. But it is one of the things. You'll get the private equity firm or the investor coming in saying, I'd really like to talk to you about your product line profitability. And you get that look like, well, I can tell you the sales by product, but no, I can't really actually get to the profitability.
Well, what a coincidence, because over the weekend I was talking to the president of a division that was just bought by private equity. And the private equity seller told the buyer, our system's in place and all the information you're going to ever want to need is in our new ERP system. He became the general manager of the division and found out they don't have an ERP, pulled a wool over his eyes. They should have done some due diligence on that acquisition, which is a whole separate topic we could probably get to in another podcast another day.
That'd be great.
But he is now going through the process to figure out what systems do they need, so he understands what his product lines are, what his costs are, what his sales by product line, by SKU, by division, by region, by customer. This is all basic information that they should have had, and now he's on a truly multi-million-dollar and multi-year journey to get that information. Should have been done ahead of time. But these are true stories that unfortunately do happen.
And I look at it even if you're doing what we call Buyside. So if you're a company that, you've got a really good strategy, you've got a very strong company, but now you're going to do some acquisitions geographically. You may be buying different capabilities. And where you see horrible stories of 50 to 70% of deals that are done don't provide value, return on the actual investment. And where it falls down, you can do your due diligence, you can buy at the right price, but if you can't integrate it to really squeeze the juice out of that acquisition and integrate it into the main body, you really won't get the return on the investment that you think you're going to get.
You'll never get it. You'll never get that benefit of that integration. So one of the key points of when you start integrating disparate companies is understanding the systems and the platforms that they have, and make some decisions. Are we going on that product, or are they going on our product? Do we combine processes, or are we going to keep them separate? One of the things that every company asks is, we're buying that company, why don't we just put them on our system? Easier said than done. So if the company they're buying sells to similar customers and similar products, are you going to send them 2 shipments, 2 invoices, 2 statements, 2 customers set up in your master files? Then you're not going to get the information you're looking for. It's a true opportunity to take a look at how you operate your business. Take the opportunity to re-engineer your business processes, your systems, your chart of accounts, your customers, your parts, your vendors, your suppliers, and come up with a plan to address that. That platform, although that investment might take time up front, will pay off on the next investment, because now you have the playbook. And that's what you want. You want a playbook. So when I acquire company C, I say, I've got a playbook to make that happen. I know how to integrate those operations, what to integrate, what not to integrate. And it's not just vendors, customers, suppliers. It's people, it's HR systems, human capital management. These are all important considerations.
Yeah, and I think that's so important where we think about post-merger integration. When we think of that, we're doing that in the due diligence phase, right? And so as part of technology due diligence, and to the story that you brought up a little bit ago, that would not be something I would want to wake up on and tell a client, oh yeah, we hadn't thought of that.
Oh, by the way, that's not what you want.
And so you're doing the HR due diligence, you're doing technology due diligence, and you're thinking about that integration, that 100-day plan way early.
The other part about any merger or integration is people. So you're talking about people. They're nervous about a merger. They're nervous about the acquisition. They want to know what their role is, their responsibilities are. They're going to want how they fit in, and what is their job going to be, and will it change? So a major component of any system, whether it's a merger, an acquisition, or just a net new system that you're putting into your company, is how do I manage change? Change management is an overused word, but it's extremely important. People need to know what's happening, what is their role, what's their responsibility. Change management is all about communications. You can't communicate enough. Communicate often, communicate early through different vehicles, newsletters. You could put something on the web portal. You could have status meetings. Communicate quite often and from various levels in the organization, from the CEO to the CFO to the controller to a plant manager, and everyone needs to be involved in that process. Change is a real key driver for success because what you're looking for is user adoption. If a user says, "Ooh, I really don't like this," for whatever reason, then you have a struggle around your hand to bring them back.
Well, I kind of talk to people that are kind of moving through their cycle of running the company with quarterly financials or maybe monthly financials, but it's like driving down the road looking at your lap at every looking up 12 times in that mile. It's a tough way to run a business. You're going to run into something. You're certainly not going to see what's coming way down the pike. So I think this is a very worthwhile thing for people to explore. I think it works for any company. One of the things I'd want to ask you, if I were a small business CEO or CFO, what are two pragmatic? We're all about pragmatic things here and right in the middle market. What are two pragmatic things that they could do now to think about exploring and maybe moving, upgrading, or implementing their first ERP system?
There's a couple things. I don't know if I could limit it to two, but I'll do my very best. One, be realistic. Don't think you're going to twinkle your nose and the system's going to be up and running. That's a reference from a long time ago. You're not putting the disk in your computer and typing in install. That's not the way this works. So be realistic on what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be doing it, and realistic in the time and resources it's going to take to be successful. And resources is not just dollars, because with all due respect to every company, it's easy to spend money. It's hard to allocate people's time. So resources is people, not just dollars. So resources are important. And the other is your organization. You have to have an organization structure in place that will guide this project to success. You need some type of steering committee. You need a project sponsor, a project manager, and you need a project team that's fully invested for success. So those are a couple key things that all clients need to consider.
So Joel, this has been a fantastic introduction to the topic. There's a lot there. I would encourage people who have some more interest in this topic to check out Liberty Technology Advisors website. We'll make sure that the website is in the show notes. There's a lot of really great material on there, some great success stories, how they approach it. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope to have you back to talk a little bit more about using some of the data and how you update, how you keep this through the life cycle of the company. But this has been a fantastic introduction. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
This is Stephanie Chambliss-Gaffin, and you've been listening to Right in the Middle Market, a podcast about running, growing, and selling your middle market business. We'd love to hear your comments about today's episode or ideas for topics you'd most like to hear in the future. Send me a message on LinkedIn or drop me a line at podcast@gaffingroup.com. And don't forget to subscribe to make sure you hear all of our upcoming episodes. Until next time, be well and be decisive.